Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, the Hip Hop Lobbyist. And today we'll be watching President Trump's announcement regarding autism in America. Man, I hope y'all having a good Monday. Hope you're starting the week off well. My mom's birthday is this week, so I'll be making sure her gift gets there on time. I hope everyone's having a great day. Everyone's still good. Let me check the stream, make sure we're actually live. You hear just the background chatter there now for anyone on the stream. How's y'all Tuesday going? Your Monday, excuse me. Feels like a Tuesday for some odd reason. Let's see how we do today.
Correct. Please hold out for a second.
Oh, goodness. I know that. Quick briefing. I know they'll be discussing autism today, but get some data out there for what it is. President Trump and company. Hold on. Did this change? I'm going to address autism, but some of the stats that are out there in 2000, early 2000s, Y2K, there were maybe 6 in 1,000 children that were diagnosed with autism. Now, maybe there wasn't a full diagnosis back then, but since 2020, that rate has risen to 27.6 of 1,000 children. That means that 1 out of every 36 children most likely have autism. Now, this is not an epidemic at all, but it is a rising concern in the healthcare industry. I know that in certain communities, there were conversations around vaccines, that some of the vaccines could have been giving children autism and those different things. And some say speculation. Everybody has their own inclination on what the causes could be. But I do feel that maybe it's a fact of we haven't had such science on this until more recently, because maybe autism was out there and it just hasn't been labeled properly, right? But now it's been more out there. Also, I have nieces and nephews and cousins that are autistic, friends as well. So it is going to be interesting to see the announcement that the president and Secretary Kennedy make today, Kennedy Jr. But what are your thoughts overall? How is autism impacting your quality of life? If you have family members or if you have it yourself, but do you even think that this is an issue among the rising numbers that data is showing? I know that in some urban and low income communities, it can really be prevalent, especially finding services for BIPOC communities, where not every charter school, every public school has what you need to address some of the challenges. And over half of autistic children, they say, from a UCLA health study, show that half of autistic children live in these urban low-income communities, 1 out of every 4. So with that, how do we make sure that the schools that are out there are providing services, or what's out there to help curtail it? To say, you know what, I'll say that they say Tylenol stock is dropping. If Tylenol ends up being one of the people that they've labeled, how will they pay for it, right? But autistic children in underserved communities have nearly 4 times higher odds of unmet healthcare needs than those in more advantaged settings. That's from an Autism Speak study. And collectively, overall, this is an issue, especially when we're talking about the whole quality of life of children, of quality of education our children can receive, and also how we deal with this, because it's a fact of, you let me get my words correct. I know that children are sensitive to children in that are handicapped or have Down syndrome or other ailing conditions. So it'll be interesting to see the benefits this program will provide that the president lays out. And, President Trump will say 4 o'clock on his calendar, but they typically run a couple minutes behind. So while we're here, if it's your first time here, I'm your boy, the hip hop lobbyist, a professional lobbyist in the state of Florida. I'm not an activist. I'm more of a change agent. I've been doing this for 15 years. Never wanted to work in politics, really fell into it. I'm a Democrat for what it is, and just sharing my 2 cents about different things. So I know that the biggest issue for most is they're too drawn in either political party. They can't really decide how they want to go forward. They can't really find a solution. But I do think that when you talk about issues like autism, that's not crime. That's not anything else. It's healthcare. And when you have a child or you have a family member with these labeled conditions, it's good to see, okay, what the federal government, state government, local governments, or at least programs that are out there to help provide resources for you. So especially in low-income communities, urban communities, I want to see what the impact will be from this policy discussion or what the president rolls out, and also how it can maybe be tied into some of this healthcare budget that they're going to have to come back next Monday and vote out before the shutdown on October 1st. So we'll see how that goes. I appreciate everybody tapping in for the stream today. Again, waiting on the president. I'm going to set some other screens up more than anything, but let me know where everybody's tapping in from. Watching the stream from today. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. Not from Duval. I think the Jaguars won, but I'm a Raiders fan. Moved here a few years ago. Do you think Trump cares? I mean, he's the president, and RFK is going to push it, so I do think he kind of cares about autism. All right, so let's see what the legislation says. But I do think that he does care to an extent of saying, okay, I'm going to go out here and address these issues. So, but once the president gets out here, we'll see what he says. But hopefully, it'll draw some attention and draw some people in and say, yeah, we can see how this actually makes sense. Got me curious. My son is autistic. Hi, I'm from Arizona. Hey, Supra. I get you. My godson's autistic. Also, I have a nephew and a niece that are on spectrum as well. So it's going to be interesting. I do want to learn a lot. Again, at least understanding the services that are out there. I know that they're talking about the budget cuts or the resolution. Let me see what happens here. I don't know what happened to my source, but we'll see what happens. Wait, let's see what they discuss, man. Thank you for tapping in, Super. From Arizona. Let me go to the White House. Always good to go to the White House, see what they're. Yeah, they're not even live yet, so they'll be beginning shortly. I'll make sure we don't miss a beat on this. Let me see what else we have that's new and popping and cracking today in the world of politics. The UN Assembly. Let's watch a little bit of the assembly here while we wait on President Trump to hop in.
The formal proceedings of the conference, we would ask you to kindly remain seated for the next part of this afternoon's program. This meeting is suspended.
France officially recognizes the state of Palestine.
We will now listen to statements made by heads of state.
And you were just listening there to the head of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, who delivered his response to the UN General Assembly and that special summit where France will officially recognize Palestinian statehood, co-convened with Saudi Arabia. And you're listening to his response to the event via video link, as the Trump administration had refused to grant him a visa to attend the event in person. Let's go straight to our Middle East correspondent, Adam Parsons, who is in Jerusalem for us live and has been listening in. And Adam, we heard there from Mahmoud Abbas. He had to give those remarks via video link because, of course, he wasn't given the permission, the authority, a visa to come here to the UN to give those remarks live. Interestingly, he gave an address where he addressed the international community, where he spoke directly to Israel, but he also spoke about Hamas needing to disarm.
Yeah, it was a very interesting speech. I mean, it is curious that he's a lot nearer me than he is you for this UN meeting. But I think Mahmoud Abbas was trying to position himself here as being a conciliatory figure. Now, he is, in the eyes of many people, of course, in Israel, utterly unacceptable. And yet, right at the end there, he wished them a Happy New Year. It's Rosh Hashanah here in Israel.
That's happening again.
To speak directly to the Israelis. He spoke about a new generation, and I think that address was peppered with references to what he will consider to be a much more conciliatory tone, including the idea of disarming, and prominently within it, that Hamas will play no part at all in any governance structure, that the Palestinian Authority will oversee reforms, and that it will hold elections.
President Trump still on a late job. We haven't missed nothing.
And that they will create a society which is based on equality, on equal rights, on peace. So clearly, the Israeli government will think that this is tosh, and that their long-running opinion that they cannot trust Mr. Abbas won't change at all. I mean, obviously, the Israelis are not in this meeting, neither are the United States. But I don't think we can get away from the fact that over the past hour or so, we have seen France recognise the state of Palestine, following on from the UK and Canada and Australia doing this so very publicly. We've seen Antonio Guterres welcoming this, but also criticising the Americans for not allowing visas for Mahmoud Abbas and his team. We've seen the Saudis standing up and talking about a two-state solution. It feels, doesn't it, as if this is significant diplomacy that is happening at the start of this UN meeting, and for it to be finished off with Mahmoud Abbas addressing this room, getting the warm applause that he did. I think that will ripple through the diplomacy that is to come, not least when Arab leaders meet with Donald Trump tomorrow. Let's remember, the Americans were not in the room tomorrow. We're not in the room either for this meeting. But
yeah, there'll be some fireworks tomorrow. We'll see.
Such power here as the bridge between the Israelis and pretty much the rest of the world.
Indeed, very much so. Adam, thank you so much for that update. And as Adam was saying there, it's a big week for diplomacy. Over the next 5 days, world leaders will gather here to discuss the issues affecting global security. Top of the agenda are the active wars in Gaza, Ukraine and Sudan. And today, Gaza and the recognition of a Palestinian state was the big theme. French President Emmanuel Macron and the Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Saud.
Wait a minute. We have some breaking news, I guess. Hold on.
Solution. You heard
they say Jimmy Kimmel.
Some of those live images now. Let's just have a.
Hold on. Let's gotta mute this for a second. They say Jimmy Kimmel's gonna be returning to air.
Him back on the air tomorrow. ABC says in a statement that we made the decision last week to suspend production to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment. But now, after having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, the ABC says we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. So Kimmel's getting back to work.
Wow.
Brian, that is significant, especially given that some of the players outside of Disney in a corporate setting, like Nexstar and Sinclair, they essentially have deals that allowed them to preempt his show, and that's part of the reason that it was suspended. Yeah. Do we know how they might react to this?
We don't, and that becomes the big question now. Will these local station affiliates choose to air Jimmy Kimmel Live, or will they continue to protest the comedian, even though the network is bringing him back nationwide? ABC does gently chastise Kimmel in this statement.
This will be interesting.
The decision to suspend him, we made it because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. So they're very gently saying they disagreed with Kimmel last week, but obviously they're bringing him back as of tomorrow.
And
Wow,
we don't
Jimmy
know,
Kimmel's back.
obviously, all of the considerations that went into this, Brian. But I would say leaders, obviously, at ABC and Disney have had the benefit of a few days of feedback.
Yeah. Including from Disney employees who were very disturbed, including from Hollywood stars and showrunners, the kind of people
That
Disney
stock
wants
took
to
a
work
hit, too.
with, and from free speech groups, politicians, even some Republican politicians like Ted Cruz. We know the condemnation of Disney has been widespread. Now,
This probably was
we
to
don't know
land
yet is
the
what
Trump press
counter-reaction
conference.
will
No,
be
only.
from President Trump and his allies.
That's a really good point. Brian, please stand by. Terry, your reaction to this news?
It's great news. It's great news. And I think you're absolutely right, and Brian is absolutely right. This was a community standing up for the rights of Jimmy Kimmel and all people who speak in public, entertainers and journalists and all of them. And it worked, at least with the head of Disney. And it makes good sense because they would have won in court. One thing that gets lost in this, you do not lose your First Amendment rights because you have a broadcast license. Supreme Court has been clear on this. The government cannot take your license because of speech they don't like.
You were talking about Katharine Graham when the news broke, and these
Jimmy
are the
Kimmel's back,
considerations
y'all.
of these bigger
My bad,
companies
they keep-
about how they're going
when they switch it,
to
fucks
handle
my
it
shit up.
and how they're going to think
Sorry,
about it. They
Gus.
do have the benefit of some history as they do consider these moves.
Right. Well, Katharine Graham, when Nixon threatened to take her FCC, the Washington Post's FCC licenses, they had some local stations. It was a main source of income. She published them anyway. She said, forget about it. And that kind of corporate courage is rare, especially in the face of an administration that exceeds by many orders of magnitude any other presidency trying to silence speech it doesn't like.
If we still have Brian, I want to go back to him because one of the interesting bits of reporting
Jimmy
that
Kimmel
we
is
got
back,
over the last
y'all.
few days was that Kimmel was actually preparing a monologue that would up the ante against some of the feedback that he got from the Trump administration. I mean, can you imagine, Brian, what might be formulating in terms of a response when he gets back on the air?
Right, Kimmel wanted to defend himself. So now Tuesday night's monologue becomes even more interesting. What he will be critical, and it might affect what local stations decide to do going forward.
Yeah.
Certainly will. I want to know what you think, Terry, about just sort of the moment that we are in when it comes to free speech. And I also want to play a moment from the White House press briefing today. This was a correspondent for Turning Point USA Frontline, associated with the group that Charlie Kirk founded, who asked the White House press secretary what her message is to Americans who are too afraid to express their beliefs. Here's a brief part of what Caroline Levitt said.
We have a right to free speech in this country. The president supports it. It is protected by our beautiful Constitution. And Americans should not cower in fear. They should rise up in courage to continue speaking the truth.
I believe that.
What do you think about what you're hearing from the White House there as we just get this news that Jimmy Kimmel will return to air tomorrow
This
night?
is
Well,
amazing.
see what the White House says. Everybody should speak up except the ones that the president doesn't like. He just barked at my former colleague, Jonathan Karl. Maybe we'll come after you because I don't like the content of your news coverage. All of this is bedrock First Amendment rights that we all have.
Work on Disney, Bob?
They've
That's crazy.
overreached here.
Why,
Most
Bob?
Americans, even many who support President Trump, did not like the kind of gangster talk that the head of the FCC said, yeah, you can do this the easy way, you can do it the hard way. And they
gangsters.
understand how precious this right is, even for people that they disagree strongly with. There's good common sense about our First Amendment rights, and I think Trump is running up against that.
Yeah, Senator Ted Cruz said it was out of Goodfellas, to
that.
your point there. Terry, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. And this is the breaking news just in from Disney. Jimmy Kimmel, his show will return
Jimmy
to
Kimmel
air tomorrow night.
Is
Big
back.
news
Listen,
there
listen.
as
This is about to be the most watched late night monologue ever. Guarantee it. You can stamp it. You can all the way stamp it. Like Disney Plus. I haven't watched Jimmy Kimmel in years. I really haven't watched late night TV. Like, I'm a Jay Leno kind of guy, right? When Jay went off the air, I kind of grew up, went to college. I wasn't really into it like that. But now, listen, this is something else, man. Let me get into something I missed. This whole Kamala Harris releasing her book. I was thinking of downloading the Audible. It's about 9 hours long, right? But they say, hold on. I just had it up. Where's the video at? Working in the background of YouTube and the video moves. That's crazy. But either way, Jimmy Kimmel's coming back. That's amazing. Still waiting on Trump to come talk about autism. Trying to find something else that's newsworthy. I don't know. How was y'all weekend, man? You know, it's just, I know CP time. Trump could be working on CP time for real. Because I don't understand how the president is late to his own press conference 20 plus minutes. Like, bruh, what are we talking about? Y'all ain't come to see me. Y'all came to see the president. Was that the president's not at the desk yet. He probably just found out that Jimmy Kimmel is back. But when he does come on this podium, we'll be sure to not only have him full screen, ready to go, but also fill everything in. You know what? While we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to my girl. Y'all can hate her. I love her. Jasmine Crockett. Now, from this, I've seen a little bit. She discusses the fact that Democrats across the board supported the Charlie Kirk resolution, and that a lot of the black members were kind of astonished. And I think to the main point in this video, I think this is what the black Republicans are saying, right? That the Democratic Party placates to black issues, placates to black voters, but when it comes to a narrative, and I'm not speaking about Charlie Kirk itself, right? But she's going to speak on it. That when it comes to a narrative of, okay, cool, this is the issue we care about in our community, this is what we want you to stand with us with, the Democrats don't go with her, right? But with the Black Caucus. But let's check out what Congresswoman Crockett has to say. Make sure y'all like, subscribe for more.
I want to ask you about that in 1 second, but I do want to start. First of all, welcome. Thank you for being here. With the New York Times reporting that the DOJ closed an investigation into
My bad, y'all.
The president's border czar, Tom Homan, after he allegedly accepted a bag of cash from undercover FBI agents. Now, it should say the FBI director and the deputy attorney general say they found no evidence of wrongdoing. You're a member of the House Oversight Committee. Are you going to try to get information about the investigation?
This is absolutely something that not only oversight but judiciary should look into, and I sit as the ranking member on the subcommittee for judiciary that is oversight. So this is something that me and my team are definitely going to look into, and hopefully the chairman of that subcommittee is interested in finding out what the truth is, because that is what we are really supposed to do. We are not supposed to figure out who is best friends with the president, and if they are closely aligned with him, then just ignore things while trying to make up things about political opposition.
We are Jimmy
On
Kimmel.
that note, I do want to turn to something that you heard the senator just say, which is he was talking about a resolution that came before the House this past week honoring Charlie Kirk.
There we go.
And there were 58 Democrats who voted against it. You were one.
Yeah,
Why?
Absolutely. You know what? One of the things I do want to point out that's not been laid out that honestly hurts my heart.
There we go.
When I saw the no votes, there were only 2 Caucasians. For the most part, the only people that voted no were people of color, because the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk continuously put out there was rhetoric that specifically targeted people of color. And so it is unfortunate that even our colleagues could not see how harmful his rhetoric was specifically to us. And I can tell you that a month prior to him passing away, he had actually gotten out on his podcast. I wasn't aware of this at the time, but he got out there and he was talking negatively about me directly. So if there was any way that I was going to honor somebody who decided that they were just going to negatively talk about me and proclaim that I was somehow involved in the great white replacement. Yeah, I'm not honoring that kind of stuff, especially as a civil rights attorney, and understanding how I got to Congress, knowing that there were people that died, people that were willing to die, that worked to make sure that voices like mine could.
My bad on that. Hold on. I want her to get her the whole piece out here.
Exist in this place. So to me, just like we wanted to make sure that those Confederate relics were taken down, the idea of a new age relic being propped up was something that I just could not subscribe to. And it is unfortunate that more of my colleagues, even on my side of the aisle, could not see the amount of harm that this man was attempting to inflict upon our communities.
And I think that that's the part where, again, Black Republicans will sit back and say, you know what, hey, even if you're a Black, African-American, melanated member of Congress, that the Democrats aren't going to be with you on these issues. So you can feel a type of way for however many numbers the caucus represents in the Democratic Party, but to have that infight is like, okay, should we be our own party? Should there really be a third party? Because I think it gets to a point of you have a lot of communities whose issues do get addressed politically. Italians, Jewish, Russian, whatever. There's a plethora of them. But when it comes to even the diverse pieces of Black issues, Caribbean issues, Africans in America and their issues, it ends up, or foundational Black American issues, it ends up getting to a point of saying, okay, cool, how can we be aligned to any party if neither party is going to be passionate about our issues, right? And I think that's the part where, again, even Republicans will say, listen, Black folks, Democrats, Black Democrats, why are you there? Because at least on our side, we want you to help pull you up by your bootstraps and we can go with the way of that. But it's like, you know what? It is what it is. Angela, thank you for tapping in. You watching on your phone and mad at me? Listen, Angela.
Yes! Fuck you too!
Just for you, Angela. I appreciate you. You know what? Because you're taking your time out of your day watching my stream and you want to say something to me. So, you know, hey, F you too, baby.
So meanwhile, you obviously feel very strongly about the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk used that you find objectionable, and also from others in the MAGA movement. As the memorial service for him is going to happen later today, there is a debate over heated rhetoric on all sides. And
listen, whether it's heated or not, the fact is Charlie Kirk should still be here. It should not have been that there was political violence that resulted because of the words that were coming out of his mouth, just like plenty of MAGA hates when I mention white supremacy, which kind of tells you where MAGA stands. But nevertheless, they get very upset when I talk about white supremacy. But that doesn't mean that somebody should then try to find a bullet or try to find a knife and harm me. Not in America. That's not who we are supposed to be.
Let's stamp that. Republicans and Democrats, can we stamp that in the chat? That collectively we can have disagreements. We can have disagreements on policy, who you want to be in the White House, who you want to be in Congress, but we don't need to threaten each other's life. I mean, that's all it is. Can we have a difference of opinion without it being a threat? Like, can we casually go home and be like, you know what, this is a great debate. You didn't win me over, but it is what it is. And I think that's the part where both sides need to calm down the rhetoric, because clearly some people out here, and they're not even buying it. But let's go to the White House press conference earlier, waiting on the president to start again. He's on CP time. If you don't know CP time, that's colored people's time. That's what the president's on today. We're going to keep it going.
We also greatly appreciate the outpouring of support and just the really kind words that we heard yesterday at the memorial service. That means more to us than I don't think anybody ever knows. And even the global support that we're seeing for Charlie has been overwhelming, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you so much. I have 3 questions, if I may, on the horrific murder of Charlie Kirk. Government and local officials said that Antifa inscriptions were engraved in these bullet casings that killed Charlie Kirk. It appears to be a trend, especially after what we saw in the Annunciation church shooting, Catholic church shooting. Additionally, Stephen Miller recently commented on the rise in this kind of violence, saying there is a domestic terrorist
movement growing in this country. The president is designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. I'm wondering what
Daisy, I'm not that familiar with Charlie like that.
People accountable, just to ensure that violence like this just is eradicated moving forward.
Sure. Well, Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. The president intends to sign that executive order very soon as it's drafted, as soon as today, later this afternoon. And this is something the president can be done because we have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across this country who subscribe to this group. And unfortunately, it's gone widely uncovered by many in the legacy media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration. Not anymore. Not only, as you mentioned, were the bullet casings subscribed with Antifa mottos, if you will, in the heinous assassination of Charlie, but there have also been more examples than I could read off for you here in this briefing room today of violence from Antifa. I will just read a few. In July 2025, several members of an Antifa cell ambushed and opened fire on officers at an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, shooting one officer in the neck.
That's crazy.
Also in July 2025, 3 Antifa members were charged with assaulting a police officer during a violent riot outside an ICE facility in Portland, which for weeks prior had been under siege from the local Antifa terror cell. In February 2024, a transgender Antifa terrorist detonated an explosive device outside of the office of the Republican Attorney General of Alabama. In July 2023, Antifa members linked to abortionist group Jane's Revenge firebombed pro-life facilities and vandalized churches. In January 2022, a suspected Antifa member was arrested for bringing a pipe bomb to a pro-Trump event. In January 2021, an Antifa supporter threatened to shoot police officers and Trump supporters outside of the Florida State Capitol building. Again, I could continue to list many more examples for those in the room who don't believe this is a serious threat to American safety and our national security, but this administration knows that it is. That's why the president will be signing this order. And we will also be, most importantly, looking at who is funding Antifa and who is funding these other violent left-wing groups that we've seen perpetuate so much crime and mayhem across our country.
Thank you. And Charlie Kirk died exercising his First Amendment right, willingly debating, conversing with everybody and anybody. That was what he did. So what message does this White House have now to all Americans who feel like they are too afraid to express their beliefs, their values, their morals in the wake of such horrific violence?
I think the president has answered this, and I will leave it to his response, Monica, where he so beautifully said, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep speaking up. We have to keep speaking our mind. I know that's what Charlie would want us to do, and we have a right to free speech in this country. The president supports it. It is protected by our beautiful Constitution, and Americans should not cower in fear. They should rise up in courage to continue speaking the truth.
And on a lighter note, Caroline, I'd love to know what your favorite memory of Charlie is.
Sure. Charlie was a great guy, and he was, of course, a very influential person in the conservative movement, in the MAGA movement. He was so helpful to the president during the campaign and to all of us who worked on that campaign, that historic campaign. I myself had many great memories going on Charlie's amazing podcast and his show. He was always willing to text people with words of encouragement. In fact, my last text exchange with him was the day before he died, and he was asking for my husband and I's address to send a children's book to our son. And I think that just speaks to the type of person that he was. And I know so many of us here at the White House are going to miss him very much.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you. Gabe.
Caroline, thank you. Regarding the autism announcement,
Sure.
why now? Does the administration have new data that hasn't been published previously showing a possible link between acetaminophen?
Hey, Wise, appreciate your time.
I know there's been many reports about what this announcement at 4 o'clock will be, Gabe. The president is very excited about this, so I don't want to scoop the president of the United States and our Secretary of Health and Human Services, but what I can assure you is that Robert F. Kennedy and the incredible health team that this president has put together are really viewing things in a much different lens. And they are paying attention to studies and the gold standard of science and research that many in this city for far too long have turned a blind eye to. So I think Americans are going to be enlightened and proud of what they hear later this afternoon, but I won't get ahead of the president on exactly what that announcement entails.
On a different topic, going back to the president's social media post from over the weekend, regarding the DOJ and his seeming frustration that they hadn't taken action quickly enough. I want to point to something that the President said during his inaugural address. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. We will not allow that to happen. Is the President going back on his promise?
No. In fact, the President is fulfilling his promise to restore a Department of Justice that demands accountability.
Okay.
And it is not weaponizing the Department of
Thanks, Freedom. I
Justice
appreciate
to
you.
demand accountability for those who weaponized the Department of Justice. And nobody knows what that looks like more than President Trump. We are not going to tolerate gaslighting from anyone in the media or from anyone on the other side who is trying to say that it's the president who is weaponizing the DOJ. It was Joe Biden and his attorney general who weaponized the DOJ. Joe Biden used this sacred American institution to go after his political opponent in the middle of an election year. And you look at people like Adam Schiff and like James Comey and like Letitia James, who the president is rightfully frustrated. He wants accountability for these corrupt fraudsters who abused their power, who abused their oath of office to target the former president and then candidate for the highest office in the land. And I think the president is reaffirmed in those frustrations and his hope for accountability by the millions and millions of people who reelected him to this office with a mandate to demand accountability. And the president has not been shy about this, Gabe. In fact, when he traveled to the Department of Justice earlier this year, all of you were there to cover it, he said, quote, "I demand a full and complete accountability for wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The American people gave a mandate to investigate and root the corruption out of our system, and that's what the president wants to see done."
Carolyn.
Ed.
On the autism issue again,
I'll be real,
there
hold
are
on.
reams of scientific research that suggests there's no clear link between autism.
Hold on. I'm gonna stop it for one quick second, y'all. President Trump was supposed to be here at 4 o'clock. It's 4:36. I don't want to hear y'all talk about CP time no more. Now, you may hear the smoke detector battery and be like, hey, why is your battery going off? But guess what? It's a soundboard. However, if it's your first time here, please make sure you like and subscribe. I am a hip-hop lobbyist. I'm a professional lobbyist in the state of Florida. I've been doing this for 15 years. This is a channel I decided to build out this year. We started around 400 subscribers in April. We're up to over 6,000 today. And I appreciate you tapping in, taking time out of your day to tap in with your boy on your phone, on your iPad, or your TV, wherever you may be watching. But either way, we're waiting on President Trump, and he's on CP time. He's on CP time today, right? So I'm going to get back to this White House press conference while waiting on the president to start this press conference as a major announcement on autism. Again, thank y'all for tapping in. I'm tapping in from Florida, good old Jacksonville. I saw we had someone else from Florida in the chat earlier, but let me know where you're tapping in from. And one question I always like to ask people, regardless of where it is, because I know the president will say, gas is down, eggs is down, everything's down. When it gets to this press conference, what is the price of gas in your city today? Let me know. My wife's calling. I'm gonna get back to this, and I'll be back on.
Autism and acetaminophen usage. You're suggesting today they may have new information on this. A lot of it, in this entire debate, has the potential to confuse women, especially pregnant women, about what to do. What do you say to those that say what you're doing today potentially just introduces more confusion into the debate?
I think women for many years, in fact for decades, Ed, have been confused by the rapid increase in autism in this country, in the childhood epidemic, that is chronic epidemic, disease epidemic that is plaguing America's youth. Women are confused about that, and they want answers to that. And that's exactly what this administration is focused on finding. And before you jump to conclusions based on reports that the White House has not even confirmed, I would encourage everyone in this room to go into the 4 o'clock announcement with some critical thinking skills and with some open ears to actually listen to what the president and his team of outsiders have to say about this. And there will be a number of things that will be announced and discussed. And I think, I know as a mother myself, I speak, I believe, for many mothers across the country who really want answers to what is happening to our nation's children. So again, I won't get ahead of the president, but I think everyone in this room needs to tone down the judgment before you even hear what people are going to say. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. So too on the Holman investigation, I mean, can you just speak to, did the president ask the Justice Department to close the case, and does Holman have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Holman never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight, number one. Number two, This was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who they knew very well would be taking a government position months later. Mr. Homan did absolutely nothing wrong, and even the President's Department of Justice, even Kash Patel's FBI, looked into this just to make sure. They had a number of different prosecutors and FBI agents who looked into this. They found zero evidence of illegal activity or criminal wrongdoing. In the White House and the President stand by Tom Homan 100% because he did absolutely nothing wrong, and he is a brave public servant who has done a phenomenal job in helping the President shut down the border. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions on far-left violence.
Sure.
The first one, the president said yesterday that the bullet hit Charlie, but it was aimed at every one of us. Do you and your colleagues have a heightened sense of fear following this shooting and this far-left violence we're seeing across the country?
I certainly think there's a heightened sense of awareness by conservatives across the country, by all of us here at the White House. Again, as I said to Monica, many of us were personal friends with Charlie and had involvement with Turning Point before we came and served our government in this way. So certainly it's a very shocking incident, and I think, you know, it's very unfortunate that those of us who work in this movement have to think about violence just for speaking our minds and for supporting President Trump.
And as a follow-up on that, I asked the president last night on Air Force One about this pattern of transgender violence we're seeing. You know, Charlie's killer lived with his boyfriend who identifies as transgender, and then we had the Annunciation shooting, the Covenant shooting, all of these incidents. The president said that we're looking into transgender violence. Does that mean the FBI is looking into it? And can you give any more clarity on how the administration is viewing this uptick in specifically transgender violence?
It's definitely something worth looking into, and I think anyone who denies that at this point is being willfully ignorant. And the administration is taking it seriously, all causes of violence, and why these people would be driven to such evil and such hatred. And there's probably many answers to that question, but the administration is really focused on all of them. For individuals,
maybe I'm just. I live in Jacksonville now. I believe Jacksonville at one point was the transgender murder capital of the country, right? And I just haven't seen that. Now I know there's been these instances, and they're only 1% of the population. But I haven't seen a plethora of, hey, what? Now, even now, I believe there's current conversations or legislation out there to ban trans people from having guns for a mental condition. That's what they're labeling it as, right? But I've never seen conservatives be ones to take away Second Amendment rights. Because even people after mass shootings, left, right, indifferent, Sandy Hook, all the different shootings. Mental health has always been a thing, and somehow people have gotten guns. So does this mean, my conservative friends out there, if we're going to ban trans people from having their 2A, their Second Amendment rights, does that mean that people need to start having a mental health check before they get their guns? Just how are you going to check? Because let's say you have your gun for 15 years and you're cool, and all of a sudden there's an attack on transgender folks. They're going to go after their guns. They're going after them because, you know, they're leading this extreme movement to kill people, right? The narrative. Then there has to be a point of, okay, cool, you're going to have a mental health check in there somewhere, right? Or am I tripping? Let me know in the chat, y'all. But I'm going to get back to this press secretary while we're waiting on President Trump to start his press conference regarding autism.
Investigations and cases, of course, the FBI and the Department of Justice are leading those. But as for this overall violence and domestic terrorism that we're seeing, the White House and the President's policy team will be leading the charge, and that really begins with designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization.
My bad, y'all. I have a hotkey set up and the hotkey fucked up.
And I can assure you there will be additional actions to come. Sure, in the pink.
Thanks, Caroline. Liz Landers with PBS NewsHour. I just wanted to follow up quickly on something that the president had said yesterday. So we heard from Erica Kirk. She said she forgives the man who shot and killed her husband. And then right after that, we heard from the president who said, I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them. How does that square with bringing down the temperature of political violence in this country? And then, if I could, I had a follow-up on Venezuela, too.
Look, the president is authentically himself. I think that's why millions of Americans across the country love him and support him, including Erica Kirk, who you saw so beautifully was on stage
Y'all be
with the
wild on
president
chat, bro.
in an unthinkable moment, in the midst of an unthinkable tragedy, and was leaning on the president for support during that time. And he was there to give it
No
to
such
her,
thing as
as well
stupid
as the
question.
vice president and many other top-ranking cabinet officials. Kayla.
Thanks, Caroline. On TikTok, the deal. How much is the deal? And if you can't give an exact number to how much the deal is, when can we expect to learn how much the deal is being valued at? And then separately, who are the members involved in the deal? Like, can you share any more details there?
So I don't have a specific number for you, nor am I going to confirm the specific individuals and entities in the deal, Kayla, but I do have several details I'm happy to run through for all of you, and the president will be signing the deal, the official deal, later this week at some point. Under the terms of this deal, TikTok will be owned by a majority of American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials. In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's trusted security provider, and they will independently monitor the safety and data security of all U.S. user data on TikTok's platform. Americans' data will be stored securely in the United States without access from China. All U.S. user data will be stored on servers operated by Oracle in the United States, protected from surveillance or interference by foreign adversaries. And the algorithm, I know this is a question many of you have had, will be secured, retrained, and operated in the United States outside of ByteDance's control. And TikTok will remain globally interoperable, meaning TikTok users in the US will be able to see videos posted by users in other countries and vice versa. While I don't have a number on the specific deal, we do expect that thanks to the president's leadership and the securement of this historic deal, businesses using TikTok will generate as much as $178 billion in economic activity within the US over the next 4 years. So,
all right, president just walked in. I told y'all we're gonna get in. Listen, we ain't gonna miss a beat. We're not gonna miss a beat. I told y'all. Welcome to the train.
For 20 years, actually, and it's not that everything's 100% understood or known, but I think we've made a lot of strides. Wish it was done a long time ago. Today, we're delighted to be joined by America's top medical and public health professionals as we announce historic steps to confront the crisis of autism. Horrible, horrible crisis. I want to thank the man who brought this issue to the forefront of American politics along with me. And we actually met in my office, is it like 20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York. I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from. And he and I don't know, the word got out, and I wouldn't say that people were very understanding of where we were, but it's turning out that we understood a lot more than a lot of people who studied it, we think. And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew. Thanks as well to the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary. These are great people. Administrator of the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, and Acting Assistant Secretary of HHS, Dr. Dorothy Fink. So thank you all. Thank you, Dorothy, very much. The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, you know, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31, but in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it, 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California where they have for some reason, a more severe problem.
1 in 27 in California.
Whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys, 1 in 31 overall. So since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism.
Oh.
No autism.
There they go.
Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See,
Amish,
Bobby
no
wants to be
TV.
very
Come on.
careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism.
Is that true for
First,
real?
effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
Who?
Acetaminophen.
Who the who?
Is that okay? Which
Who
is
the who?
basically commonly known as Tylenol.
Damn.
During pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism.
Tylenol, stop dropping.
Tylenol
Put your puts in.
is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child a Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you have to, if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you
Can't tough it
end up
out.
doing it.
So pregnant
The
woman?
other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies, it's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. So ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol. And on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff, you'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And you know it's artificially induced. It's not like something that, when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury, in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine.
Told y'all this.
The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel. The mumps, measles, and all the three should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it four for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, oh, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted.
What?
There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be
say what?
It's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country.
What?
The FDA will be updating the label of an existing drug to reflect potential benefits in reducing some autism symptoms. This gives hope to the many parents with autistic children that it may be possible to improve their lives. That's one of the things that I'm very, very happy about. I mean, this is mostly going to be on how not to have the child affected, but we've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better, and in some cases maybe substantially better. Not going to be easy, but be a lot easier if it didn't happen in the first place, as these great parents fully understand, right? They fully understand. I feel so terribly for. I have so many friends with autistic children. It's a tough situation. Finally, to help reach the ultimate goal of ending the autism fever, the NIH will be announcing 13 major grant awards from the Autism Data Science Initiatives. And to be honest with you, to me, that's the least important. It's not even a money thing at this point. There's so much money, but they have to do, and they have to move quickly. When the alternative is that nothing bad can happen, let's do it now. I was just saying to Bobby and the group, let's do it now. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. But with Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. And if you can't live, if your fever is so bad, you have to take one because there's no alternative to that. Sandy, first question, what can you take instead? It's actually, there's not an alternative to that. And as you know, other of the medicines are absolutely proven.
So you just got to find
They've
it.
been proven bad with the aspirins and the Advils and others, right? And they've been proven bad. So I'd like to ask Bobby to get up to the podium and say a few words, and then Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. McCary, Dr.
Oz,
followed by
RFK Jr. in the building. Oh, man, it's big Trump, man.
Experienced firsthand what this country is going through, what parts of the world are going through. And I will say there are parts of the world that don't take Tylenol. I mean, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol, and they have virtually no autism, okay? Tell me about that one. And there are other parts of the world where they don't have Tylenol, where they don't have autism. That tells you a lot. And I want to say it right now. And, you know, the way I look at it, don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it. So I'd like to ask Bobby to come up and say a few words. I hope I didn't ruin his day, but that's the way I feel. I've been very strong on the subject for a long time. You know, life is common sense, too. And there's a lot of common sense in this, and I wish things like this were brought up, and this group has worked so hard on it, but I'd like to be a little bit more, a little speedier in the process of a recommendation, because there's no harm in going quicker. There's absolutely no harm. At worst, there's no harm. Thank you very much. Bobby, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. To meet the president's challenge, I ordered HHS to launch an unprecedented all-agency effort to identify all causes of autism, including toxic and pharmaceutical exposures. At President Trump's urging, NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS are turning over every stone to identify the etiology of the autism epidemic and how patients and parents can prevent and reverse this alarming trend. We have broken down the traditional silos that have long separated these agencies, and we have fast-tracked research and guidance. Historically, NIH has focused almost solely on politically safe and entirely fruitless research about the genetic drivers of autism. And that would be like studying the genetic drivers of lung cancer without looking at cigarettes. And that's what NIH has been doing for 20 years. As a result, we don't have an answer to this critical question, despite the cataclysmic impact of the epidemic on our nation's children. We are now replacing the institutional culture of politicized science and corruption with evidence-based medicine. NIH research teams are currently testing multiple hypotheses with no area off limits. We promise transparency as we uncover the potential causes and treatments, and we will notify the public regularly of our progress. Today, we are announcing two important findings from our autism work that are vital for parents to know as they make these decisions. First, HHS will act on acetaminophen. Potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes, including later diagnosis for ADHD and autism. Scientists have proposed biological mechanisms linking prenatal acetaminophen exposure to altered brain development. We have also evaluated the contrary studies that show no association. Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change. HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. FDA also recognized that acetaminophen is often the only tool for fevers and pain in pregnancy, as other alternatives have well-documented adverse effects. HHS wants, therefore, to encourage clinicians to exercise their best judgment in the use of acetaminophen for fevers and pain in pregnancy by prescribing the lowest effective dose for the shortest necessary duration and only when treatment is required. Furthermore, thanks also to the politicization of science, the safety of acetaminophen against the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in young children has never been validated. Prudent medicine, therefore, suggests caution in acetaminophen use by young children, especially since strong evidence also has associated it with liver toxicity. Some studies have also found the use of acetaminophen in children can potentially prolong viral illnesses. FDA will drive new research to safeguard mothers, children, and families. In addition to a possible acetaminophen connection to autism for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers, our research has revealed that folate deficiency in a child's brain can lead to autism. We have also identified an exciting therapy that may benefit large numbers of children who suffer from autism. Peer-reviewed literature has documented that up to 60% of folate-deficient children with ASD can have improved verbal communications if given leucovorin. I have instructed NIH, FDA, and CMS to help doctors treat children appropriately. Jay will help tell that story, which started with sound science, the kind that restores faith in government. This announcement also represents a historic collaboration between NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS. We expect this to be the first of many announcements over the coming years that deliver actionable information to parents on underlying cause of autism and the potential paths for prevention and reversal. Finally, autism is a complex disorder with multifactorial etiology. We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. But some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. But I want to reassure the people in the autism community that we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers. We will perform the studies that should have been performed 25 years ago. Whatever the answer is, we will tell you what we find. We are researching this issue to all 3 agencies. Jay will discuss one of our research initiatives at NIH. This model of unleashing unbiased, depoliticized, gold standard scientific research and academic freedom to deliver actionable information to prevent and reverse disease will be a model for the framework to deliver similar results for many other chronic conditions that plague Americans. Jay?
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy, and thank you, President Trump.
Thank you very
I'm back, y'all.
Autism research, devoting an additional $50 million to the cause of studying autism. Nearly 250 research teams from across the country applied, sent in their applications, and were peer-reviewed by the NIH review panels. The NIH peer reviewers chose the 13 best projects focused on root causes and therapies, with replication and validation studies to guarantee gold standard science. The studies feature a new kind of science called exposomics, where scientists consider environmental and medical factors, nutrition, events during pregnancy, in combination with biology and genetics to answer vital questions about autism. Science like this, conducted in partnership with families and physicians, is the best way to...
I was ready to get up there. Appreciate y'all tapping in for the stream again. If it's your first time here, I am your boy, the hip-hop lobbyist, professional lobbyist in the state of Florida, watching President Trump's announcement regarding autism. We have about 500 people here. Over 50,000 people have tapped in today so far. Appreciate every single one of y'all taking time out of your day, spending with your boy. Again, the first time here, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to yield back to the press conference, but I know Dr. Oz is up next.
Advanced methods in causal inference, machine learning, organoids, and other fresh approaches to the problem.
No problem, Nicole. Thank you for tapping in. Appreciate you.
An urgent response by the scientific community. As Bobby said, the NIH has invested a lot of money to study autism over the years, but the research has not produced the answers that families and parents of autistic children deserve, and autistic children themselves deserve. For too long, it's been taboo to ask some questions for fear the scientific work might reveal a politically incorrect answer. Because of this restricted focus in scientific investigations, the answers for families have been similarly restricted, often pointing families to behavioral therapies that don't work for every kid, or suggest non-modifiable genetic factors as the cause. But genetics alone can't explain such a sharp rise in autism prevalence over just a few decades, as the president said. In coming months and years, as NIH scientists learn more that can help autistic children and their families, we won't delay. Like scientists often like to do, I can say as a scientist myself, it's really tempting to delay, but but in face of a problem like this, you have to move fast. But we will not delay before telling American people about what we find, and we will win the public trust with transparency and rigor. Already, our broadened focus on autism research has pointed to 2 items.
Carmen, I just saw your post. You're fine.
Prevent and treat some cases of autism. I'll leave the good news on these 2 items to my close friends and colleagues, Dr. McCary and Dr. Oz. We've been working together closely on this problem for the past 6 months, and our cooperation represents an unprecedented collaboration with Secretary Kennedy.
Motherland.